My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Many thanks for choosing us. Let's begin with the engagement with the IMF team, which has entered day 2 today. Apart from government economic team, the IMF team is also expected to meet other stakeholders, including the Bank of Ghana and labor unions. The meeting with the Finance Ministry began yesterday and it's continuing this morning. My colleague, Blessed Soga, is stationed at the Finance Ministry and joins us live with the latest on today's meeting. Blessed, has the meeting started and what can we expect from today's engagement?
Aisha, so as you can see right from the background, this is where we are today, the Ministry of Finance, where we are expecting that the delegation from the International Monetary Fund would, as part of their engagements, continue meetings with officials of the ministry this morning. Yesterday, upon arrival, per the schedule that JoyNews has intercepted, we know that, for instance, the Office of the Vice President was engaged as part of the preparatory meetings for today's main agenda. It appears that from the schedule, today is the D-Day where, of course, the IMF officials will be starting off by delving into our data. So they're starting off, first of all, with the issues of data reconciliation by, first of all, understanding our economic outlook. Once they have a firm grasp of what it is that's on our books, then from there, we're setting that, of course, the team can then go on and engage other stakeholders before that final plan from the ministry in terms of the letter of intent from the government of Ghana is released. I'll just take you through briefly what we know may happen today. In fact, that meeting, as we are speaking, is scheduled to happen at 10 o'clock. So any moment from now, or even as we are speaking now, there are signs and indications that officials of the ministry are preparing, just awaiting the arrival of the IMF delegation so the conversations can start. It appears that top on that agenda is the first of all the issue of our economic outlook. The IMF team, per the schedule that we have, will be interested in knowing what the government projections are and what strictly the targets are for our government, and then move into the area of our expenditure. It appears that that's a key concern for the IMF team, a reason for which obviously the government is turning to the IMF. So they'll start off by assessing some of the revenue measures and expenditure cut measures that we're taking just by ourselves as we roll along to this austerity measure. So the government policy of a 30% cut in public expenditure is where they're starting off from to assess if indeed the officials of the ministry were able to enforce that across all of the public institutions. You know that that directive was given by the finance minister a couple of months back. Obviously, the IMF team will want to look into that and then assess if indeed these expenditure cut measures have been efficient. There's also the issue about government's key revenue measure, the electronic transactions levy. Government was targeting it 4 billion, over 4 billion, which they hope will shore up our revenue measure. That is also on the table for discussion today per the schedule that we've seen so far. That meeting will be extensive, so it will be happening between a 2-hour period. So the expectation is that that revenue measure of the e-levy will be assessed by the IMF team. They'll be assessing that because government is obviously seeking to rake in some revenue from that revenue measure. As the money research, for instance, is pointing out already, government was not able to meet that revenue target. As we learning from that research work, about 83% of Ghanaians have changed their attitude towards the transactions online and electronically. So that would definitely mean that government may have some difficulties in terms of making a case for the e-levy as a sustainable means of raking in revenue. But we never know what the outcome will be. We're still on the lookout for that. And then next as well on the agenda will be the issue of some critical key sectors where government normally rakes in significant amounts of forex issues about the cocoa sector. That would also be on the table from the schedule that we have. And then there'll be the focus on our oil revenue and what we're using it for and the rest. That's where the big concern is also coming up from. Because if you look at some of the flagship programs that government is running, including the likes of the free senior high school policy, it relies heavily on oil revenue. Will the IMF team, looking at our books now, call for a revision of that policy? We never know what the implications will be, but looking at the fact that we've spent over 7 billion just over a period of 5 years already on such a policy, it is likely that that may come up strongly, a recommendation from the IMF team asking for a revision of some of these critical measures. And then there's also the issue about the public sector and issues relating to payment of salaries and compensations. It's one of the key areas which has obviously affected the state's budget and issues relating to our expenditure. If you take a look at what's happening on the labor front right now, the conditions of living, the cost of living allowances is one of the main demands that the labor unions are advocating for. Whilst they are making that demand, it appears that even how much alone we're paying in the public sector in terms of salaries and employment and recruitment and all of these issues, they have equally been a drain on the budget. So we're not clear what the implications will be for the public sector and their latest demands. But from the table that we have here, Aisha, it appears that the issues of salaries would also come up strongly. So these are some of the key issues that are scheduled to feature when that meeting happens. And you can see some officials already passing by, getting ready for that engagement to start in a few minutes from now.
Who are supposed to be in this?
We'll see what the outcome will be, but it's a long engagement, long deliberations. If you look at the list of technical persons that the Finance Ministry and the IMF have lined up, it appears that this will be a long day, and JoyNews will definitely keep an eye on the developments and bring you the latest in terms of what it is that we have on the negotiations that are opening with the International Monetary Fund. Aisha.
Blessed Sogan is our man at the Finance Ministry. We certainly will bring you details of that meeting when it finally begins. But Blessed, if you can hear me, I'm asking who and who are going to be in this meeting. Do we know?
I don't have too much.
All right. So we'll go back to the Finance Ministry and get more from Blessed. So, Blessed, do we know who will be part of this meeting?
Well, so Aisha, the point is really, you know that this IMF deliberation has got to do much more with top officials. It's a matter of policy and ensuring that Ghana sails through and gets whatever it is that we're seeking to get from the International Monetary Fund. So you'd expect that very top officials, supported by a strong team of technical personnel here at the Ministry of Finance, would have to support in the negotiations as they open. It's been a solemn morning, I must say, here at the Ministry of Finance, because obviously you would expect that a lot of brains will go into the key demands and the letter of intent that government wants to put across to the IMF team. So in terms of the main officials that will be doing that deliberation, there are no clear signs as of now, but we are setting that, of course, that team would be led by the officials from the Ministry of Finance. There are signs that some of their directors have already reported when we arrived, giving a clear indication that paperworks are flying all over the place, and there's a lot of coordination that is happening just to ensure that Ghana also derives the maximum benefit it wants from this austerity plan. Because mind you, if it fails, as we're being told by the government officials and the information minister on probe over the weekend, then it will mean that there will be dire consequences for our economy. As he pointed out, the reserves are down, which means that government would want to do whatever it can to ensure that they show up our revenue measure. And that's why, if you look at the schedule that we have, the key issues that are featuring appear to delve much more on government expenditure measures and revenue measures as well. What's draining us and how we're showing up to make sure that we make up for that as well. So the 30% cut, as I referred to, is the first item on that deliberation. The issue about ensuring that we don't have wastage in the public sector, that's what the first and the opening talks will be about. It's sealed there and it's in order, as we can tell you and report to you that it's definitely going to feature looking at how the public sector also cuts down on its costs. And then the next concern will be about our revenue measure so far, which has got to do obviously with the electronic transactions levy, which government is basing its hopes on. If nothing is able to come out for that from that engagement in terms of the revenue measure, obviously expenditure may be more affected. It goes without saying, because obviously the IMF team would want to ensure that our program yields the maximum revenue measures that will support our economy. So these are some of the issues that we're on the lookout for. Very soon, I'm sure that the delegation would arrive as we have it. It's supposed to start at 10. Last for about 2 hours for the first session, and there's also expected to be another round of negotiations. It appears that a lot will be happening in the coming days. It's not just a straightforward talk with the IMF, which would end us up on the austerity plan. It appears that there's going to be a long series of engagements, as we understand, being led by Carlos Sladovic, who's obviously the country team leading the engagements with the International Monetary Fund. So we are on the lookout for that, on the lookout for the team to arrive here at the Finance Ministry, and then we'll give you some updates. No signs of the Finance Minister himself yet. He may be obviously crossing the T's and dotting the I's ahead of that crucial engagement. So we'll definitely bring you up to speed with what it is that we have now. But we can't confirm to you that today, day 2 of the negotiations proper would open. And of course, some of the issues that will be considered will involve government's expenditure measures and revenue measures as well.
Stay on the JoyNews channel for more on this. Blessed Soga on that bit. Well, in Parliament, Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu is fighting back accusations that his side should accept blame for Ghana's latest return to the IMF. Top government and non-PP functionaries have said the NDC's opposition to the e-levy and the consequent failure of the tax handle to realize the projected amounts forced government to seek a bailout from the IMF. But speaking to journalists in Parliament, Haruna Idrisu, minority leader, says his side will not accept any responsibility as regards to the economy's current predicament.
Now, they should stop any attempt to shift blame. E-levy remains an unpopular tax instrument, and therefore the fact that it passed does not mean it had the support or has the support of the minority. We rejected it because it was unpopular. We shared it with you. We rejected it because it's marks of double taxation. Indeed, in many jurisdictions, it will not stand constitutional acceptability. I cannot see why I take my income tax, pay an income on my tax, and in sending 2,000 of it to my mother on an electronic platform, I still have to pay tax on it. So our position on it have not changed. Therefore, the essence of this press briefing, they must take full responsibility and focus on expenditure reduction, particularly focusing on social intervention whilst they reduce their opulent expenditure. What is of greater concern to the NDC minority is that they arrogantly rejected every reasonable and constructive suggestion from us and from other respected economists and Ghanaians on working together to improve the economy. What they must learn to live with is that once the Ghanaian people voted for a hung parliament, it meant that the days of impositions are over.
The Tamale South legislator says the blame for Ghana's poor economic state should be laid squarely at the doorstep of President Akufo-Addo, whom he accuses of profligacy. Meanwhile, he's urging the Vice President Dr. Bawumia and the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to resign to save their credibility.
That President Nana Addo Dankwa and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia should take full responsibility for incompetently managing the economy to suffocating debt level, which has necessitated the retreat, for us to request an agreement with the International Monetary Fund for the restructuring of our debts. as they take full responsibility, they should. They should also take responsibility for their reckless and irresponsible borrowing and unjustified profligate expenditure, which has led us to the journey of retreat. And you know, many of them are behaving like a class 6 people who tells their mother and father that last year I got F and I marked the NDC and probably John Dramani Mahama F. Then after 3-5 years, they get an F and they say that my F is better than your F. That's a childish behavior they are into, as if they are right. I mean, in any civilized democracy where people take responsibility and have a premium and value on credibility, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, I don't know whether he has any respect for the word credibility and its value and what you do with, including the Honorable Minister of Finance. They would have done what is needful. I doubt if they can correct their mess. So they better start packing to get out of office.
On his part, ranking member of the Finance Committee of Parliament, Dr. Kessie Elato-Forson, says Ghanaians must embrace tough times under a new IMF deal. According to him, the country's debt position and other variables make it clear that Ghana will get a tough deal.
I only want to reiterate that the people of Ghana should expect a very strong IMF program. Unfortunately, the government is not articulating that fact. They are trying to hide from what is happening by trying to blame Ukraine-Russia war. I do not accept it, and we cannot accept that as the reason why Ghana is in this mess. We are in this mess because it is government's deliberate policy. The government has messed us up big time, and they should take responsibility for it. This is indeed self-inflicted, and the people that took us through this mess must immediately take responsibility, as the leader said. I also want to say that we in the minority will never and can never accept a blame that suggests that we deliberately rejected government policy. This IMF program will differ from all the IMF programs that we've seen in the past. In fact, this will be the first time that we will do an IMF program with debt restructuring. That means a lot. That will mean that Ghana is going to go through another phase of HIPIC, to the extent that we are going to look at our debt and restructure it. The government should come clean and tell us what exactly the people of Ghana should expect it, instead of blaming Ukraine and Russia. Sadly, they are telling us that the Ukraine war has affected Ghana more than Ukraine. Unfortunately, today as we speak, all our economic indices, as compared to Ukraine is better than us, even though they are at war. Yet we, sitting here, huge kilometers away from Ukraine, is trying to blame Ukraine and Russia. No wonder the Russian embassy has been consistent in telling the government to stop what they are doing.
Meanwhile, Defense Minister Dominic Nitewul says the Finance Minister should not be hanged for the current economic crisis that has forced Ghana to seek a bailout from the IMF. Ken Ofori-Atta had consistently stressed Ghana will never return to the IMF. He had held on that belief until the president last week directed him to begin negotiations for an IMF bailout. Many, including the NDC minority in Parliament, had demanded that he resign or be sacked. Speaking on PM Express last night, his colleague, Defense Minister Dominic Nitewul, stressed a lot changed in the last few days that the Finance Minister could not have anticipated.
It's affected us in the fact that programs that maybe you want to do, especially programs that for the security, you may not be able to get all the resources that you need, because everybody has to at least
do you have any specific examples?
I'll give you that. Expect that you should do this kind of thing. But you see, when you have an enhanced program like ensuring that your balance of payments are right, you ensure that growth is, you increase growth, you ensure that you cut expenditure, you ensure that the wasteful expenditure is cut off from it, you ensure that at the end of the day, there's credibility within the governance and economic system. All these programs put together, at the end, is just to one thing, keeping the nation together and ensuring that by a certain time frame, the outlook of the country becomes positive. All sectors, including that of the security, must know that they must lower the expectation a little bit. Programs that can be postponed, you have to. Programs that you believe that you can do your work without, you have to. All ministers must be on their feet. So, for example, you have to make sure that wasteful expenditure is cut off and everything is being done. But there's some of the expenditure that we have to do to ensure that we save our country. You and me, or this average Ghanaian, wants to wake up knowing that the country is safe. He has a country that he can move freely. So those operational expenditure will still have to go ahead as a country. You know, Operation Calm Life, Operation Kundagu, Operation Cow Leg, Operation Cow Feed. If there's a problem in a particular place, you cannot say soldiers or police should not go. You have to find money along the line to go. You cannot say you're not going to feed soldiers. You have to feed them. We feed 12,000 soldiers on a daily basis. You have to feed them because they are all spread around different places. Same with police, same with fire service. If there's a fire burning in Kantamanto, you cannot say fire service must not go. They must get fuel and they must be able to move. There must be water, there must be a fire hydrant, all these kind of things that need to be done, they have to be done. But there are a lot of programs, for example, what we use our goods and services for, maybe painting of this ministry, or trying to do little things, or maybe buying a lot of internet that you may not need too much, or maybe making a lot of phone calls that you should not make. You have to cut down a lot of those kind of things. That's what I'm trying to say, that the non-essential things we all have to cut down, including the security agencies, including the security ministries. Things are not very normal. But I believe, like I said, it's a phase. I believe that Ghana, there's
Dominic Nitewole is defense minister. To other stories, in Ghana, 1 out of every 5 children has a functional learning difficulty. This learning difficulty is more common in children aged 5 to 17. Many teachers also lack the ability and knowledge to identify such students in order to provide assistance to their pupils. This is according to findings by the Institute for Educational Planning and Administration at the University of Cape Coast. The research notes that the situation is a major contributor to failing educational standards and warrants an effective inclusive education policy. Samuel Mbura has more.
Which seek to identify challenges confronting inclusive education in Ghana indicate that pupils with disabilities have consistently poorer learning outcomes in reading, writing, and maths than pupils without disabilities. Director General of the Institute for Educational Planning and Administration, Dr. Michael Boachi-Yadom, tells JoyNews the challenge needs urgent attention.
Generally, we realize that there seem to be many more children with disabilities, otherwise referred to as differently able students or learners than we thought. That is the first point. The second one is that there also appears to be a lot of misunderstanding, inadequate knowledge about the characteristics of these differently abled learners. We might have assumed that many teachers have a very good idea, good knowledge of who they are, how they operate, and how to support them. But what we are realizing is that knowledge on the kids and who they are, their characteristics, is limited.
The highest proportions of children with functional difficulties were found in Volta, Eastern, and Upper West regions. Laura Lechi Atachi teaches at Kumbuni RC Basic School in Sogakope of the North Tongue district in the Volta region. She tells JoyNews that identifying learning disabilities among her pupils has been a major challenge in the classroom.
Sometimes it's very difficult, but as teachers we are trying our very best to identify at least the minor ones that we can identify and manage them appropriately. Sometimes the sitting position in classes also, it's one of the methods we use to help such people, especially those who have problems with maybe their eyes or the ears.
Peterson Kwesi also teaches at Aduto EP Basic School in the South Tongue district. He wants the government to create and provide resources for inclusive education.
We are hoping that gradually these trainings will be done to equip us with necessary skills, knowledge, and some level of values that we can use in handling learners with disability.
But the least learning functional difficulties were reported from the Northern and Greater Accra regions. Edward Oleinu of the Central Mosque School in the Greater Accra metropolis says the inability to identify learning disabilities is contributing to the falling standards in education.
No, the problem is that you cannot assess them. When you assess them and you have the results will inform you as to what to do next. But at their level, they cannot be assessed. And so sometimes we allow them to grow through the system just like that.
Meanwhile, principal researcher with IEPA at the University of Cape Coast, Professor Rosemary Sawa-Bosu, believes adopting and implementing innovative adaptive teaching methods is one way of bridging the gap.
The world is changing, and globalization requires the world population to quickly adapt and learn to work with new technologies. So adapting and successfully implementing innovative, engaging and adaptive pedagogies is one way that to achieve what the Action Area 2 of the Save Our Future paper talked about.
To achieve this for all marginalized populations, education systems must be examined and reviewed to ensure learning methods meet the needs of learners. Samuel Mbura reporting for JoyNews.
We can now go on to the phone line and speak with Dr. Mabel Otibwedu of the Psychology Department of the University of Ghana for more on this. Doc, are you surprised that there's inability by teachers to identify children with special needs in learning?
Good morning. The name is Otibwedu.
Thanks for the correction.
Okay. Thanks for the question. I'm not too surprised that we have difficulty identifying children with disabilities in Ghana. I think policymakers and the government itself knows about this limitation because we do not have the necessary assessment tools to be able to detect this. And then we do not have the knowledge. So that is what is causing the problem. We have some assessment centers that have been established in the country to, deal with these, but they are not in good shape in terms of they don't have the necessary resources, the cultural norm tools to be able to screen and identify these children and then be able to include them in the various classrooms.
Now, do you think that our inclusive education in the country is effective?
Okay, thank you. I can say that Ghana is making some strides in terms of our inclusive education. Generally in education, we're making some strides. And then in 2012, when we ratified the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, since then we have made significant growth. And then in 2015, we introduced the inclusive education policy. However, and this policy basically seeks to ensure that there's equitable access to education, there's participation by all, and creates a friendly environment for even persons with disabilities, as part of mainstream classroom. However, it is beset with certain challenges that have made this success story to be a bit, difficult to tell. And some of the challenges, listening to our other speakers, some of the challenges basically are the resources needed to make this inclusive education work. That is, if you decide that there are going to be no more going to be special schools and that all children with disabilities are going to be parts of mainstream school, then you are ready to provide them with all the needed tools and resources to be able to feel part of the class in terms of, aids in studying when it comes to those who are having hearing difficulties, visual, those who cannot have communication difficulties and all. So all those should be provided with, and then that is what we are lacking. We lack the teaching and learning materials. They are insufficient. And then also we don't have teachers who are competent enough. I know there are training teachers in Cape Coast University, at Winneba. They are also, University of Education are also training teachers, but it seems not to be enough. More needs to be done to be able to get teachers who can even identify these children and support them. So, and then those are the two challenges I've mentioned. And then we have accessibility to these schools. We have our schools. We want to include children with disabilities, but access is difficult when it comes to going into the school, going into the classroom. I remember in a school there's a staircase, and there are no other places that people could use their wheelchairs and all that. And so we have to lift the child across the staircase to the classroom. Since when are we going to be able to do that? So accessibility to the school and to the classroom is also a problem. And then one other major problem that I'm so much concerned about is the attitude of parents. The attitude of parents, the attitude of community. Many people in our communities have a negative view of children with disabilities, stigmatize them, they see them as not part of us, and the fact that they cannot learn in the usual classroom. So thinking about taking them to mainstream school is something that is unheard of. And many parents actually hide their children. They don't want anybody to see their children, so they will not even allow them to be assessed, to be placed in the schools. And these are some of the things I think are creating challenges for the inclusive education policy.
Dr. Otibwedi, let me ask you, what are your recommendations to address these challenges?
Okay. So basically, if we are able to provide or resource our assessment centers. You see, there's an assessment center at Achimota, and it's been under construction for some time. It's not completed. So we were able to resource our assessment centers, and I know there are others that do not have the resources, the competent people to do the assessment. So we need more resources in these areas. And then we also need to improve on our training for our teachers. Our teachers need more training and then work on their attitudes. A teacher could be trained, but still would be holding on to these negative attitudes and would mistreat these children in the classroom. So we should work on that. And then we should continuously gather data on these children. They are all over the country. We should look for them, get the data, and then we can work on them. And then lastly, and then provide appropriate resources. Some children can only communicate through pictures and all that. We should be able to provide these and also support our parents. Many parents who have children with disabilities are left on their own. And when they are left on their own, they are not able to make decisions that would be in the interest of the child. They do what they think they can afford. And especially those who have children with severe disabilities will think that they'll take their children to special schools, but they are also very expensive, and it's creating a lot of problems for our parents. So I think these are some of the things government can do to help with this. If we no longer want to continue with special schools in existence, and we want every child to be part of the mainstream school, then we should put things in place well to be able to accommodate all of them.
Dr. Mabel Otibwedi, I'm grateful for your time. She's a psychologist. Now, hundreds of electricity companies of Ghana customers are rushing to the ECG offices to get their metering challenges rectified in order to avoid being prosecuted by the company. The company gave a month moratorium to its customers, which expires on Wednesday. Customers who do not visit their offices to resolve issues such as uncaptured meters, billing anomalies, faulty meters, meter bypassing, and meter tampering will face prosecution, according to the utility company. The exercise forms part of efforts to rid the system of any electrical illegalities and also reduce the utility company's commercial losses. JoyNews has been interacting with some of the customers at the Kaswa North ECG office.
For 7 months, because I said, we are back. Because we are let me use it as a good student. As I said, before I said, now when you be with now taxes left in the year, it's really be bill number. Almost say entry meter numbers number. Bill numbers and I had you. I'm sure every dream in Bakaran and bill number be known to me to ya. It's your modern rabbi say, entry meter numbers and I had it. Send a way I bet me. Actually, and Kakraka, Bibia Satra. Omoba and Oma Bibia and Chiremi bets. Last been on mobile and Omaka say, be mitan. Yeah, mentor number, Omoba Samba back. My true number Bibia at all, man, Babio.
ECG notifies us to come to the office to come and check if maybe we haven't get any our meter is not registered in their company or kind of stuff. So that's why we are here. We are here so that they do that for us.
Okay, so what were the issues with the meter?
Okay, me personally, I don't have any issue. I just bought a new prepaid postpaid meter. So as soon as I bought it, up to now, from the time I bought it, I haven't get any people to come and check or to come and give me bills of how I'm owing. So as ECG announced that whoever has those kind of challenge should come to the office, we decided to come. That's why I'm here.
So have you
documents to them so that they will look through it. I don't know what else.
And on our election headquarters, National Chairman hopeful for the New Patriotic Party, Kwabena Abankwah says he's the right person to help the party break the eight. Abankwah, who is the current national treasurer of the party, says he would bring everybody within the party on board at all levels to make it possible for the NPP to win the 2024 general election and remain in power. According to him, the NPP actually needs national chairman who can instill discipline and maintain a united front. There's more in this political desk report.
When we went for the ballot, I'm the number 8.
Okay.
And therefore, my slogan, vote number 8, Kwabena Abankwah to break the 8.
Kwabena Abankwah would have served the NPP as national treasurer for 8 years by next week when the party goes to the polls. He is seeking now to lead the party as national chairman. He touts himself as a unifier and the only one among the chairmanship contenders who can lead the party to victory in the next election.
These are the qualities I am bringing to bear, and I'm asking the delegates to give me the opportunity to serve the party. Qualities of being fair to the people, making sure that you have a listening ear, qualities of making sure that whatever opportunities are there, there's an equity in the game, qualities of making sure that we work together as a party and we react quickly to any grievances that may bring division in the party. Qualities of the fact that there is a need for us to ensure that whatever we do it in oneness for the agenda 2024 victory and beyond.
Kwabena Abankwah believes the party needs resources to be able to match the NDC and secure victory. He wants accountability for these resources.
As a treasurer, I worked earnestly to ensure that the party's financial base was properly set up, and also to ensure that there was proper accountability by way of money that went into the various constituency accounts. I also made sure there were some transparencies set up, in the sense that anything that I sent to them, I gave them information. And therefore, it helped the party also making sure that there was accountability.
There are some who have criticized him as not having performed well as treasurer, but he's been defending his records.
Treasury, as a treasurer, I've delivered. I've brought in a lot of innovations, fundraising tools, adopted polling station, the first of its kind, D-Day, sponsorship of polling station, just a common, an amount of 500, we're able to mobilize money for over 40,000 polling stations. It worked in 2016, it worked in 2020, and I believe it will work until the end of time.
The economy is now in distress. Ghana has engaged the IMF, but Abankwah Yeboah says the party has performed better, must be retained to continue their good work.
For me, it is not. For me, I believe we need to sit down as a party when the new leadership comes and strategize and communicate properly to the masses. Most of the problems we are having now has a root cause. And of course, because it has a root cause, the public should know and understand why all these things have come into play. My only problem, and I have that with NDC, is the fact that they are not giving solutions.
Abankwah Yeboah comes up against strong contenders, including party stalwarts Stephen Team, who will be running for chairman for the 5th time, former SIGA boss Stephen Asamoah Boateng, Sami Krab, and Professor Ameyawe Kumfi.
When we went for the ballot, I'm the number 8.
We're still live on Joy News today on the Joy News channel. Let's take a break. When we return, there's a very latest coming from the world of business.
It's time now to do business. I am Beverly Broom. A Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, Herbert Krapper, has said government will work with productive sectors to rebuild the economy following the effects of the COVID-19. He has said that government's National Revitalization Initiative will diversify the economy, strengthen the industrial sector and increase employment. He was speaking at the maiden graduation ceremony of Ghana Exports Promotion Authority Export School.
The objective of the Ghana Export Promotion Authority Export School is to support the Ghanaian exporter community to acquire proper export managerial and technical skills. It is to build trade capacity to enable global competitiveness. The maiden congregation ceremony had 19 students graduating from the school. Speaking at the ceremony, Deputy Trade and Industry Minister Herbert Krapper maintained that government will build and expand human capital for industrial export development and marketing.
For young graduates, I think the message is simple. You are graduating at a time when engaging the productive sectors of our economy could not be any more relevant. Government is mindful of engaging the productive sectors of the economy, and we continue to roll out programs that allow us to be able to do that. The National Industrial Revitalization Program that we roll out is supposed to provide support to viable but ailing institutions and firms that have a potential to rebuild. Today, if we're able to come out of the ravages of the pandemic and conflict, we have to be able to build industry that allows us to engage the productive sectors of our economy.
Chief Executive Officer for the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, Dr. Ifwa Asabia Asari, said capacity development is key to the growth of the sector.
To attain a projected revenue of at least 25.3 billion by the year 2029. You may be wondering how all this information relates to today's program. The success of this national strategy, which is seen as a channel for Ghana's economic breakthrough, hinges on 3 strategic pillars. The first is to expand and diversify the supply base for value-added industrial export products and services. The expected outcome of this is an expanded and diversified supply base for value-added industrial exports. The second pillar is to improve the business regulatory environment for export in a bid to reduce time and cost of regulatory compliance, resulting in a competitive export environment. The third and final pillar, which this program is based on, is to build and expand the required human capital for industrial export development and marketing.
The Gepa Export School was established in 1987 to support the Ghanaian economy.
Now, businesses in Ghana have been urged to re-strategize if they want to survive the current economic crisis and its corresponding high inflation rates. Now, inflation 27.6% in May this year, consequently triggering an upward trend in interest rates. Now, in the Ashanti region, the increasing rates have affected small-scale businesses. Charles Kusi Apiakubi, a business consultant, wants businesses to adapt different management approaches in staying buoyant. There's more in the following report.
Ghana's annual inflation rates accelerated for the 12th consecutive month, moving from 23.6% in April to 27.6% in May this year. The development is affecting local businesses, but Corporate Vision Consult is helping rejuvenate businesses through its economic forum in the Ashanti region. Speaking at the forum, Financial Secretary of the Ghana Union of Traders, Guta Ashanti, blamed high import tariffs on increasing prices of goods. Max Obanfo reveals the tariff is collapsing businesses.
After the COVID, things were getting better, but the Russia-Ukraine war has collapsed everything once again. So it's like previously when we import goods, the container that brings our goods were $3,000 for a container, but now it has shoot up to $1,200 for the European countries, $1,500, $1,600 for those from China. So it is killing our business, and that is one main reason why prices have gone up.
Chief Executive Officer of Corporate Vision Consult, organizers of the forum, Charles Kusia Piakobi, says they seek to improve the current economic challenges and explore avenues for businesses to survive.
The business environment is challenged, and there's a need for us to assess the current situation and see how best we can probably adapt to strategies to survive in this current economic environment. That's why we're here today. We met to pick thoughts, and probably we have to assess those thoughts that have come out. Then we will come out with a report, or a recommendation report on what must be done. So we will re-engage this trade association that we met today and probably advise them the route to take in the revamping businesses within the Ashanti region.
The forum was on the theme, Revamping Business Environments, Our Responsibility. Anita Sewajige's reports, read to you.
That's it for business. We have more business stories when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Up next is sports.
And it's time now for sports. Mubarak has all the latest. How are you, Mubarak?
Doing very well. How are you too?
I'm good. It's all about the transfer window.
Yes, exactly.
A lot of them are leaving.
So many players are leaving. So many are also extending their contracts.
Okay.
It's important to know that yesterday, Roma teenager, of course, Black Star centre forward, Felix Afenajan has extended his stay with Roma on a 4-year deal. So he'll be there with the Italian Giants until 2026. Okay. But the latest at the moment is his Black Stars counterpart in Alexander Jiku.
Okay.
Now we understand he's in Germany at the moment to undergo medicals to sign for a Bundesliga side called Hoffenheim on a 4-year deal. He has done so well this season. I mean, recently the Ghana Footballer of the Year Awards, he emerged the winner, beating Arsenal's Thomas Partey, Southampton's Mohamed Salisu, and then his centre-back partner in Amate. So, I mean, he's had an incredible season, and he's looking forward to upgrading his level from Strasbourg to Hoffenheim. So, yeah, let's see what happens.
Well, we look forward to what's going to happen.
Yes, it's important to make our viewers know the show tonight called Goal Chase, where we are going to preview the World Athletics Championship, which comes off next week on Friday. So today, at exactly 8:30, the Goal Chase program will come up. So stay tuned, Aisha.
Yeah, you need to stay tuned on the JoyNews channel for everything sports. And that'll be it for sports. That'll be it for News Desk. Many thanks for watching. Log on to myjoyonline.com, though you get more of the news and updates of all our developing stories. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. See you again at 12.